Mabel St Clair Stobart was born on February 3rd, 1862 and died on December 7th, 1954 at the age of 92. She was a successful author after a lifetime of important war work. Mabel Stobart was also a suffragette, an activist and an influential spiritualist. The following conversation with Mabel was recorded on August 26, 1968. The medium was Leslie Flint and is an edited extract of that conversation. Mabel Stobart. It is not until you have come here that you realise how very little one knows, in spite of years of study of the subject. Even those scientifically minded are very puzzled. Science on your side is still finding a method of communication without the aid of mediums. It's extremely unlikely and remote, and the medium must play a part. Science may invent instruments which could produce evidence that will convince science and the world generally. I think there will always be a need for mediums. In the future, physical mediumship will play a very important part. At the moment, it has fallen into the background with very few physical mediums. It will be through the agency or physical mediumship, scientifically tested and approved under certain conditions, which science will bring about, that we shall have the full realization of the world as to the truth of this great subject. Science will develop its own methods, but mediumship will still play a very important part. Without the agency of psychic force and power generated by mediums and utilized by us, this is the only way, though it may be more scientific in its method and approach. We shall still need mediums. I've had many experiences with mediums, many satisfactory and many disappointing. It is only by constant inquiry and sittings under all kinds of conditions do you come to the full realization of the truth of survival. You, I know, are experimenting with a great deal of success at putting your findings over to the public. Even with the aid of your machine, which records accurately in every detail, a séance such as this, you still have great problems and difficulties. It must all boil down to the personal experience. Until each individual has their own experience, coupled with evidence to satisfy them, in particular, no real progress is made. In a kind of way, progress is made and interest is stimulated, but it must still boil down to the individual approach and the individual experience. All you can do is open the door. It depends on the individual as to whether they will go through that door and discover for themselves what lies beyond it. But you do very valuable and important work, and in that respect we help you to do the best of our ability. There's much that we would like to achieve, but there are certain limits. I think it is amazing what you have achieved, and I know that you will continue to endeavour. I feel that the day has not dawned when the world will begin to see with clarity of vision that we all desire and hope for. That day is a long way ahead, but you are doing your part in different ways. We feel that until we have given that conviction in a scientific way to scientific minds under scientific conditions, we shall not make an impact. We shall be able to provide proof of survival, comfort many people, and arouse a great deal of interest. But until we can have full cooperation and scientific sense between the scientists on this side of life and the scientists on yours, until scientific methods have been brought into being, which will happen, and until this happens, we shall not convince the world. Once it has been scientifically approved, accepted and made known, when all the nations of the world are fully conscious and aware of the reality of life after death and the reality of communication, when this truly comes to pass that all peoples accept and understand, we cannot hope to achieve more than we do. Until this is brought fully into a scientific acceptance, I have no doubt this will come. Mediumship will still play an important part because the human element must always be there. We have great hopes of things transpiring in the years ahead. It is the only salvation for the world. When man accepts full realization of life after death, when he realizes that as he sows in your world, so truly shall he reap in this. Until man sees the error of his ways and is brought together in brotherhood and love with a perfect realization and understanding that every act by the very nature of it, creates a condition not only in your world, but in this, particularly for those when they first come over. When they realize that the seeds sown in your world will bear fruit in this world as well as in yours. When man sees the error of wrong thinking and action, when he sees the reality and beauty of spirit and aspires towards it, when he uplifts himself with the knowledge of spirit and the realization of the power of spirit, then changes will come into your world. We have great faith and hope. There are many levels of consciousness, and to be able to transfer and transmit to another sphere of existence. Entities do from higher spheres enter lower spheres, transmitting their message of love and spiritual guidance to those less fortunate. All life is mental, and if it were not so, there could be no existence. I would say that behind everything that happens, wherever there is existence and consciousness, there is life, but purely on a mental level, and as we think, truly we are. As we grow mentally, we grow in spiritual stature. A man is no more than he thinks he is. He is no more than he has made himself by his thoughts, which of course lead to action. The whole point is that we're involved with so many different levels of consciousness, but we cannot reach a higher level until we have made it possible for ourselves. It comes to the state of being of mind. But as we think, we are. But as we are, we act accordingly. But man can open up his consciousness to a higher condition of life, and will be helped and guided by those more highly evolved. We do exactly the same when we come to you. We try to give you enlightenment and truth from a particular sphere from which we come. We may be limited to a point by the conditions around you. We are limited by individuals which we are trying to contact. If they have closed minds, we cannot reach them. The tragedy of your world is that its mind en masse is closed to spiritual things. It functions on a material basis, and since the whole world is materially inclined, with no thought of the spirit and that which lies ahead tomorrow. While man clings to material thoughts, it is difficult for us to reach him. Once a man opens his heart to knowledge and opens his mind, then he can receive that inspiration that we can give. Much depends on the individual. If only people would lift themselves a little higher so that we can reach them. There are many methods of communication. The mental method is a wonderful method which can achieve great things. It is fundamentally the highest form of communication. The process of mind over matter, coming from our side, entering into your world, into the mind of the individual. That person can be so brought out of material things, be so uplifted and so inspired, that they can receive tremendous help and spiritual guidance, which will transform their lives, and those around them can be affected by the soul who has received inspiration and follows it out. The physical methods such as we use, when used properly on the highest possible level, is the greatest form of communication, but it's extremely rare, and when it is found, is limited by the conditions around the medium himself and by the people oftentimes who sit with the medium. Mediumship of this nature, what is termed physical phenomena, can be the highest possible level of communication, providing the conditions around the medium and with the medium are put to the highest possible level of consciousness. But this does not always happen. Other mediumships evolve and come into being. We are looking for instruments all the time, and science too will play its part. Scientific efforts will be made by certain individuals here and there, in different parts of the world, who will cooperate with mediums. And through the combination of scientific approach and a high form of mediumship, we shall eventually bring into being a method of communication which will convince the world. This is what we're aiming for, and it will come to pass. There are many obstacles to overcome and conditions to be changed, but we shall find the right subjects and the scientifically minded who have spiritual desires. And we shall emerge together and bring forth a method of communication which will astound the world. The needs of the world are desperate, and that is why we are working so hard in this direction to bring about a marriage between science in your world and those in this world of like mind. We are aiming for the highest possible form of communication on a level whereby conviction can be brought to the world. All those who doubt will find that truth that we've all desperately endeavoured to present to you, brought forward in such a way that none can doubt it and all must accept it. When this happens, the world will be changed. Governments will act in harmony with the world of spirit. We are desirous of bringing harmony and peace into your world. which will come, though it may take many years. We are on the right path and finding subjects and instruments. Efforts are being made in many countries. Later, certain scientists will come out into the open and make known their findings. These things will come, but not yet. We're all striving on this side for the betterment of yours, that knowledge, truth and light may be brought to it. There shall come a new way of thinking, and peace eventually will descend upon the world of flesh.